The new season of The Witcher is drawing even closer. Stronger and stronger Vietnam-style flashbacks arise from remembering the first 3 seasons of this so-called masterpiece. So let us reminisce about it once more, especially the first season. The first season of The Witcher. How much controversy it provoked. Some worshipped it and some despised it. Someone became a fan of Anya Chalotra as Yennefer, while others cringed at the sight of any of the cast. Some literally cursed at the Nilfgaardian armour, and some, well, nah. Everyone was in culture shock at the sight of that armour. It was objectively terrible. But in any case, the armour alone could not torpedo the series by itself. On our channel, for instance, we released a rather scathing review of Lauren Hissrich's creation. The author of that video truly burned over a number of the show's elements. And our team's opinion has not changed to this day. The Witcher from Netflix remains a silly, mediocre, and thoroughly disrespectful adaptation that I wish I had never seen. If you guys think otherwise, please share your thoughts in the comments. Given that even within our team and our friends there are people who actually did like Season 1, we kinda quietly accept any opinion on it. But from the perspective of the author and the narrator, the 2019 release of The Witcher looks like a low-quality puzzle with broken edges that is painful to assemble. And the resulting picture is far from pleasant. In subsequent seasons, everything becomes even worse, yet for some reason viewers respect the first season the most, so let us dissect it. In today's video, we've compiled the top list of the show's greatest stupidities, and not the usual kind, specifically the bits and pieces that Netflix writers reworked. These elements were absent from Andrzej Sapkowski's original saga, but they've been inserted in there for some reason, or twisted beyond recognition. The reasons may differ, yet the fact remains. All of these additions are senseless and unnecessary. In short, the original story was wrecked by screenwriters who believed they could write better than the author himself. Before we start, we would like as always to thank our patrons who stay with the channel even in the toughest times. Thank you guys. Do join the ranks of these amazing people and we will reward you guys with regular content on the Witch universe. But even a like, a subscription, and a comment would be plenty. Thank you if you support us that way. And here we go. Episode 1. Well, let us begin with the first episode, which was probably the most adequate of the lot. The tale of Renfrey and Stregobor, the introduction of Geralt of Rivia. It was all fine, but we're not here to praise, are we? So let us discuss the arc involving the fall of Sintra and Princess Ciri's escape. When the ruthless invaders won the battle and wiped out almost every living soul. The first inadequate character who jumps out is Cahir. He's portrayed as pure, unquestionable evil. In the books, Cahir is a multi-dimensional and a genuinely interesting character. He grapples with his feelings, but here he is simply a thug. With a twisted grimace, he chases the elusive Ciri and looks ridiculous rather than frightening, though perhaps that is the armor's fault. In any case, Cahir's cartoonish villainry isn't the only issue. In the debut episode, we are also shown Ciri, who unleashes magic with an inhuman scream. She does so being fully conscious, and apparently she is able to control that magic immediately. She even rips a massive chasm in the ground between herself and Cahir. All of this happens without any preparation, training, or expenditure of life force. In short, the idea that Ciri must learn to control her powers because she can inadvertently harm those she loves never even comes up. She is simply that powerful from the start. Episode 2. In the second episode, the amount of nonsense increases drastically. Let us begin, of course, with the elf named Dara, who is utterly unnecessary and is inserted into the narrative purely to exist. Naturally, no such elf appears in the books. Dara is pointless and toothless. He does nothing to develop Ciri's character. He vanishes after a couple of episodes. He merely pops up to haul Ciri out of assorted scrapes. A guardian angel who unties her in the forest or guides her among dryads. Without him, the plot would be unchanged. And from a lore perspective, the elf's appearance and behavior defy analysis. Given everything that transpired between the elves and the humans in the Witcher world, the first thing Dara should have done was slit Ciri's throat in her sleep, or at least hand her over to the Nilfgaardians. In addition to that, the idea that a young elf can wander alone through Cintran woods during wartime is wildly implausible by Sapkowski's standards. For some reason, the air literally reeks of irony. But beyond that silliness, we also have Yennefer's storyline, and it is actually not that bad. Not at least we take a look at the sorceress training in Aretuza. There are plenty of absurdities to cover. The first is that novice sorceresses live in genuine casemates of bare stone with zero comforts. How are they supposed to grow into the most beautiful and refined ladies? It is a mystery. Existing in such conditions is impossible. Cold, damp, no light, bars, stone, a wretched bed. How do young sorceresses not drop like flies? It is baffling. The second issue concerns the magic lessons. At first glance, they seem fine. We are shown that spellcasting demands sacrifice. To levitate a pebble, the novices must draw power from a flower. The flower then withers. If you cannot pull power from the flower, you might rip it from your own hand, turning it into a mangled stump. So there must always be an external energy source. Understood. Crystal clear. Yet in every subsequent episode, the sorceress is fleeing spells with a mere flourish, never thinking about sacrifices or sources. Why the show staged this circus of, so to say, rules of magic is unclear. It simply makes no sense at all. Equally senseless is the idea of turning unsuccessful novices into eels. Apparently, those who struggle with magic are disposed of in the most brutal manner. Aretuza in the show is not a school of magic. Aretuza is a deadly boot camp with death around every corner and genuine Hunger Games style survival among sorceresses. Needless to say, the books contain nothing even close to this nonsense. Episode 3. Next, we move on to a comparatively coherent episode where we can note a few deviations from the books, yet at least the show's own logic does survive. So for some reason, Triss is inserted into the tale of King Foltest's cursed daughter. Presumably it is merely to introduce Triss to Geralt, but it fails because the characters still lack motivation. Foltest once again is depicted as a pudgy scoundrel rather than a desperate father striving to save his child. And let us recall the ball where sorcerers choose their kings. Yeah, that is apparently how politics functions here. Monarchs select their court sorcerers at an Aretuza soiree out of sheer altruism. But why? Fine, let us move on. Episode 4. Episode 4 drags us back into madness. First of all, there are no dryads in Netflix's The Witcher. They simply do not exist. Instead, we get Amazons. Once again, they serve no purpose. In the books, the dryads play an important role. Their actions lead Geralt to realize that Ciri is his destiny. In the show, Geralt's Ciri bumps into her, and then something just happens between them. The second absurdity concerns Geralt, who, turns out, he was not invited to Queen Calanthe's feast. He simply appears as a bodyguard for the bard Dandelion. That is right, the Queen of Sintra lets anyone at all come inside and sit at her table. The bard has a bodyguard, so he too is wined and dined at the feast, and he even sits at the Queen's own table as well. In the original, Geralt was personally invited by Calanthe. The third stupidity involves the events in Sintra. Everything surrounding the character named Cahir is non-stop nonsense. You barely have time to count the absurdities. First, Cahir is a sadist who kicks people for fun. Second, a Nilfgaardian sorcerer who eats a strip of skin from the corpse of Queen Calanthe. Third, Fringilla the sorceress pulls the other sorcerer's bowels out and somehow divines Ciri's locations from these aforementioned bowels. Quite frankly, it is impossible to say anything here about book canon. Episode 5. The Doppler is a cannibal who turns into Mousesack and kills Mousesack. Once again, no point in this since they kind of already found out where Ciri is. Just grab her and be off with it. But okay. Geralt for some reason continues to just bastardize Dandelion. In doing so, he deliberately catches the genie, Geralt, catching an amphora with the genie in the lake with nets, deliberately, to get rid of insomnia. That is a great idea, and the chance of catching a genie must be immense. I'm surprised no one's ever caught a genie, and for a good reason. Insomnia. How do you live with such a terrible disease? Needless to say, in the original story, Geralt and Dandelion caught an amphora with a genie accidentally during an ordinary fishing trip, and there is no reason to twist this scene, right? It all comes down to Geralt and Yennefer meeting up, which happens during an orgy for some reason, and the fact that the genie possessed Yennefer like some kind of a demon, and the sorceress was kind of restrained, like in Supernatural, kind of. Dean and Sam would approve, but we would not. Oh, and one more thing. Doppler the cannibal in the guise of Mousesack came over to Brokilon and just took Ciri away from the Dryads. Episode 6. And here we have a real dragon hunt, with a very strange cast of all the characters in general. Here we go back to the Doppler, who did not last long. He gave away his true nature to Ciri for some reason, even though he was supposed to bring her to Cahir. Then he grabbed her, tied her up, and left her in the forest, himself having already turned into her. In her guise, Doppler returned to Cahir and attacked his own employer, trying to kill him. Why and what for? We're not asking those questions anymore, are we? Random actions of random characters just happen on screen. Nor do we question the consistency with the original saga. After all, the storyline with the Mousesack turned Doppler, skin-eating, gut-guessing, and the teenage elf is obviously not there at all. Well, too bad Sapkowski did not figure out such an ingenious solution. Then Lauren Hissrich would not have had to rewrite anything. Of course, Ciri is freed from captivity by the very elf savior, who then simply walks off into the sunset. At the very end, we're shown the very villainous Cahir and once again reminded that he's a villain for some reason. The character simply has no motivations, he just does something. Oh, the horror. Episode 7. In Episode 7, we have the extravaganza of giving away another girl instead of Ciri to Geralt, who has come for his destiny and forced his way into the city. We immediately have our first introduction to Vilgefortz through the character of Yennefer. And Vilgefortz is pathetic. First of all, who the hell is he anyway? Yennefer doesn't even know him by the name. He's convincing her of something. Some weird conversation. A quick reminder. We are talking about Vilgefortz, the most powerful sorcerer on the entire continent, if we're taking normal lore as a basis. In the books, he's famous and legendary. In the show, he's a no-name. And he's treated the same way. Next, we're shown a council of sorcerers. And Nilfgaard is obsessed with Ithlin's prophecy of the White Frost. Nilfgaard, Ithlin's prophecy of the White Frost. Obsessed. Owen Calanthe imprisoned Geralt, and during the entire siege of Sintra, the Witcher remained in the casemates, in the dungeons, and Ciri at that time was running from Cahir and creating chasms in the lithospheric plates of the continent. Remember the first episode. Drawing any analogies to the original book saga is increasingly difficult. Apart from the character names, we have no clues at all. The episode ends with the bandits who want to hand over Ciri to the Nilfgaardians. And Ciri unleashes her power once again, and for some reason she shouts out the same prophecy of Ithlin about the age of the sword and the axe or whatever. The White Frost in short. Why? Probably so that the viewer can hear it. Episode 8. The last episode can be characterized in just a few words. The Battle of Sodden Hill. It is right about enough to watch it to realize the level of absurdity in Netflix's The Witcher. What do you guys think about magic in the form of poisonous mushrooms and walls of vines? How about brainworms that get inside the heads of sorcerers and make them drop bombs on their own people? Hello, illithid of Dungeons & Dragons. I didn't know you were here. What do you guys think of bombs in general? How about the idea that the sorcerers wiped out the entire Nilfgaardian army on their own? And how about Vilgefortz? Not a sorcerer, but a powerhouse. An assault trooper, a paratrooper. Landed behind enemy lines, got a saber, lost a saber, conjured another saber, lost it again, conjured another one, and lost it again. What a misfortune. He got so tired of conjuring sabers, he just fainted. Now that's what I call a sorcerer, an enchanter, a magician, a conjurer. Take a look at the Nilfgaardian sorcerers. They sort of turn themselves into catapult cannonballs and throw themselves at their enemies. Nice. What about Yennefer? How she made up her mind in an instant. The moment she started doing her magic, she turned everything to ash, destroyed them all by herself. Okay, that is enough. It's not even funny anymore. It's more like painful, stupid, idiotic, absurd. Stupidity at every turn. Just like Geralt and Ciri meeting up. People who have never seen each other, know almost nothing about each other, have experienced nothing together. They meet for the first time. And suddenly they run to each other, embrace, swear something. A truly incredible moment from the books and the games of The Witcher is flushed down the drain. And the word canon, this one we agreed not to bring up. Finally, we saw the end credits. The first season of The Witcher series has come to an end. The nonsense meter has crossed all reasonable limits. It is no longer possible to talk about any correspondence to the original. Netflix's The Witcher is separated from the book universe as much as possible. If the games from CD Projekt Red respect the original, then the show is mocking it, putting it mildly. Soon we should expect a 4th season of this show. I do not expect anything from it anymore, and neither does our team. But we will watch it, of course, and you can always and definitely respect a review from The Old Witcher. What if the 4th season will be really better? Myself, I still do have some illusions about that. Maybe I'll regret it. Most definitely, I will regret it. Well, what do you expect from the 4th season of the series named Netflix's The Witcher? Write about it in the comments. Tell us about what you guys disagree with in this video. Maybe you actually like the show. Once again, we would like to thank our patrons for supporting this video. Thanks to you guys, we can express our thoughts on controversial topics, like the Netflix show, as candidly as possible. Thanks to everyone who watched this video to the end. You guys will definitely hear about the upcoming Witcher show season when The Old Witcher speaks once more.